She had expected nerves. She had expected the tightness in her chest that came from walking down an aisle with too much history seated on either side. What she hadn't expected, what she had refused to rehearse, was how alert she felt. Not excited, not giddy, watchful. Her parents arrived early. They always did, as if punctuality might substitute for warmth. Her siblings came together, a unit, smiling easily. They hugged her briefly, careful with their clothes. Someone commented on the flowers. Someone else asked where to put a coat. Her son hovered close to her leg, small fingers grazing the fabric of her dress. He had practiced for this. He knew when to smile, when to stand still. He had been told, gently, repeatedly, that today was important. "You look handsome," she whispered, adjusting his collar. He beamed. The smile was bright, hopeful, unguarded. It hurt her a little how much he wanted this to be good. The ceremony itself passed without incident. Vows spoken clearly. Applause at the right moments. The room behaved. That was the miracle of it, how well everyone performed when the structure demanded it. At the reception, glasses clinked. Plates were set down. Conversations braided together into something that almost sounded like ease. Her parents sat at the head table, backs straight, expressions neutral but attentive. Her siblings leaned in toward one another, laughing softly. Her son stood beside her, scanning the room, absorbing everything. When he caught her eye, he smiled again. She smiled back. She didn't hear the comment at first. It came as an aside, delivered with the tone of someone stating an obvious inconvenience. "Let's not pretend he's part of this family," her mother said, nodding toward the child. "Today's about blood." The words landed with a dull finality. Not loud enough to halt the room, loud enough to be heard. Her father didn't contradict it. He looked at his plate, then up as if confirming a detail. Her siblings nodded, not eagerly, not reluctantly. Just enough to signal agreement. Her son's smile faltered, not dramatically. It slipped, the way expressions do when the effort sustaining them runs out. He looked down at his shoes, then back up, confused. Waiting. She felt something inside her split cleanly. One part of her wanted to rush, to shield, to explain. The other part, the one trained by years of minimizing, froze, calculating the cost of speaking. Music played on. Someone nearby laughed at something unrelated. The world did not pause to acknowledge what had just been declared. Then her fiancé moved. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't theatrical. He took one step forward, steady and deliberate, and lifted his glass just high enough to catch the light. The clinking he made was gentle, but it cut through the room. Conversations thinned, then stopped. He didn't look at her parents right away. He looked at the guests, at the tables, at the child standing beside his bride. "I wasn't planning another toast," he said. His voice was calm, warm even. But something important just became very clear. Her mother straightened. Her father frowned slightly, already bracing. "This family," he continued, "isn't defined by blood. It's defined by commitment. By who shows up, who protects, who stays." A few people shifted in their chairs. The room leaned in without realizing it. He turned then, finally, toward the head table. "And anyone who can look at a child on his mother's wedding day and decide he doesn't belong here." The silence that followed was complete. Not stunned. Aware. Her mother stood up so abruptly her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "How dare you," she said, voice breaking into a shout that startled the nearest tables. "You don't get to rewrite." "I do," he said, still calm. "Today, I do." Her father opened his mouth, then closed it. One of her siblings muttered something she didn't catch. Her son looked up at the man holding the glass. The confusion on his face eased, replaced by something tentative, fragile. Relief, maybe. Or trust. The rest of the evening rearranged itself around that moment. Some guests left early, murmuring excuses. Others stayed and drew closer, pulling chairs in. The music resumed, but differently, softer, more intentional. Her parents left without saying goodbye. Later, in a quiet room away from the noise, she knelt in front of her son. "Are you okay?" she asked. He thought about it. "He said I belong," he said finally. "Yes," she said. "You do." She knew this didn't fix everything. There would be calls that went unanswered. Holidays renegotiated or skipped entirely. Grief that would surface at inconvenient times. But as she stood there, her child's hand in hers, Her husband beside them, she felt the center of gravity shift, away from permission, toward safety. The cost was real, so was the choice. And this time, the choice held.